we'd had conversations going into it around maybe being tactical with the cane usage, where we're out in the countryside or a bit further afield in urban areas, probably not too bad to use the cane. But using the cane in busy urban areas where there's definitely going to be CCTV, that will be a unique identifier. And then if I'm not using the cane, how are we going to guide? Because if I'm just holding on to him all the time, it's going to maybe draw attention. So we had all that stuff going through us. But honestly, Rob, it was a phenomenal experience.
Ste Johnson is absolutely awesome. Not only has he been on TV this year, but he has also launched something very, very exciting for the sight loss community. This conversation is well worth a watch, so please stay tuned and don't miss it. So Ste, can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the condition that you have?
Yep, so hi everybody, my name is Ste Johnson. I'm 47. I live up in Warrington in between Manchester and Liverpool, and I have X-linked retinitis pigmentosa, and I've been severely sight impaired for around 20 years and a full-time cane user.
Wow, full-time cane user for 20 years, so you are a pro with your cane.
Well, I wouldn't say pro, but I get around, shall we say.
No, that's awesome, man. That is cool. That is cool. Yep. And what age were you diagnosed with X-linked RP?
Well, it's quite a funny story. I was actually diagnosed at 3, but my family made everybody promise never to tell me. So it was kept as a secret. So I actually found out by accident when I was about 18 or 19 during a routine eye examination. And that's when I found out, but my parents, turns out, had known all along. So I was on my I was on my break from college, and I'd been having some bad symptoms with night blindness and lack of peripheral vision. And at that time, it sort of manifested itself in I kept tripping over obstacles that were low down and bumping into children and things like that. And then around college time, when I started going out to pubs and nightclubs, I really noticed I had a bad problem with night vision. So I just went to get it checked, and that's when they told me that you've got RP and you're going blind, which was a total shock on my lunch break. And I had to go home and confront my parents and find out what the deal was, and was anyone else like me in the family like this and all that sort of stuff. So that was my pathway to diagnosis.
And it's really interesting because my parents, it was tough. It's like, when do you tell your child that they've got this thing, you know? And for me, I was younger and I was chasing my sister on a promenade in Ibiza, and there were a couple of steps, and I ran off I just didn't see the steps, cleared them, and that was kind of the point where, you know, they said it to me. But yeah, it's a hard one. I haven't got kids. I've got 4 dogs, and I get it. It's tough, you know. But yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, I think it was my parents' logic was they didn't want me to place any limiting beliefs on myself, especially in your early formative years. They didn't want me thinking, I'm not going to drive because I'm going blind, or I'm not going to go to college because I'm going blind. They just didn't want me to have any kind of excuses to hold over myself and just to absolutely, go for it. So that was their rationale. And I always think, wow, that is a ballsy move for a parent to do, and I'm not sure I would do the same, or whether other people would agree or disagree. But it's in hindsight, all things considered, I am glad that they did that, because I just lived, for the first 18, 19 years, completely normal, completely unlimited, and didn't have any sort of emotional burden, or wasn't really second guessing what my future would be, if you know what I mean.
Definitely. And I think so many people that will resonate, you know, the growing up and getting into pubs and clubs and not being able to see in the dark and walking into people. I mean, it's mad, but I actually got refused entry to nightclubs because people thought that I was so drunk. Because I could, honestly, my friends would get so aggy with bouncers that were like, he's not coming in, he's so drunk, he can't get. And it's like, mate, I haven't even started drinking yet, like, you know?
Yeah, I do know. I actually do know, because I can totally share that experience.
Absolutely. But if I had a white cane at that point, they'd be like, come straight in, you know, it makes sense. But because it was like, I don't want anyone to know it. I'm just working through it. It's like, mate, you can't go in. And then if you try and say to a bouncer, mate, I'm not drunk. I'm blind. I can't see very well. They're like, pull the other one, mate. Like, sorry, man, you're not coming in. Oh,
Yeah, I've had. I mean, my joke I always used to say to my friends is, "How do you know you can't see in the dark?"
yeah.
That, I just thought that's what dark was, and
Yeah.
if it's dark, no one can see. And it was only when I was thinking, why is it only me that's just walked into that bouncer and spilt a full pint all over him? Why is it only me that's tripping down these stairs?
Yeah.
Why am I the only one that's just been thrown out?
Yeah.
Um, um, so it's that's why I'm laughing as you were sharing that experience because I mean I'm from a fairly small rough town as well, so that was sort of a bit of hard schooling growing up, and there was I had three pretty bad ejections from bars and nightclubs by some pretty nasty bouncers, which as you can imagine, my brother, my friends don't take kindly to that. And when you throw alcohol into the mix, and I actually got thrown out of Chicago Rock for impersonating the blind because I had my cane in one hand and I was texting my lift to say, "Can you meet me at the doors? I'm coming out." And I actually got forcefully ejected by the door staff, um, which obviously led to a bit of carnage. But it's small town mentality for you, in it, pubs and clubs back in the day.
Wow. And how much money did you spend buying people like replacement drinks? Because I was
Hardly
probably
anything, because I
every.
never used to go to the bar. I used to just say, I can't make it over there, lads. You're going to have to get the round in.
That's good. The amount of times that I knocked people's drinks over, and it was like I'm either getting in a fight or I just say I'll buy you another drink. Yeah.
I actually did that about 12 hours ago. I only landed back in the UK at 1:30 this morning. And in the airport, I knocked a full glass of ice off the table in the airport bar onto me and my friend because he'd put the glass next to the bottle of Coke, clear glass, clear ice, and I was feeling around on the table and just sideswiped it. So, I mean, that's type of stuff still happening to me now, and I'm supposed to be an experienced blind guy.
All right, Steve, I'm going straight in for it, mate. You have had an absolutely mental year, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it, but you are pretty famous in the UK for being on Hunted. Season 8, the first guy with a visual impairment to be on TV. Talk to me about it, man.
Well, firstly, it was um, it was an amazing opportunity, and I don't know if you find things like this, but I do a lot of adventurous, crazy stuff, and oftentimes I get stopped from doing things because people are worried about your safety and things like that. And I was honestly really, really first and foremost so happy that Channel 4 and Shine TV were allowing me to do it, and they were not worried about me running or falling or getting in an accident or hurting myself or anything. So I was so happy about that. So that was the first sort of euphoric feeling, and just getting through the casting process and all that jazz. And then the second sort of thing that hit me was I really don't want to be like the first and last ever visually impaired contestant because I ruin it for everyone else in the future. And I also don't want to be the first captured. Um, so that was my initial, thoughts and feelings around it. Um, and then obviously I needed a very, very, very trusted guide. Guiding is something I think is quite underrepresented, isn't it? We talk a lot about cane users and being visually impaired or blind or whatever, but without my guides, I would not be able to do the crazy stuff I do because I need guides of steel, like extreme guides that are willing to take on the accountability and pressure of guiding someone. And then for my friend Chris, who guided me, we've done a lot of crazy stuff. So he wasn't too phased by it. Um, but you know, the from his point of view, he's got to, manage the fact that we're on the run being chased by a elite team of special forces and police and military intelligence officers. He's having to try and look where we're going and navigate, but he's also looking for two people, isn't he? Because he's also guiding me and making sure I'm not going to bang my head on anything or fall down any stairs or that. So it's, it's a lot of pressure and stress. Um, and obviously you're super paranoid the whole time because you're on camera, you're being watched, and we'd had conversations going into it around maybe being tactical with the cane usage, um, where we're out in the countryside or a bit further afield in urban areas, probably not too bad to use the cane. But using the cane in busy urban areas where there's definitely going to be CCTV, that will be a unique identifier. And then if I'm not using the cane, how are we going to guide? Because if I'm just holding on to him all the time, it's going to maybe draw attention. So we had all that stuff going through us. But honestly, Rob, it was a phenomenal experience. Something I'm incredibly proud of. I won't give any spoilers away, but for people to watch it. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a really good opportunity to showcase blindness and the low vision life in a bit of a different way. It's a bit of a fresh sort of look at what we can do and how we can put ourselves out there. And myself and Chris, we have a lot of banter and a lot of fun. So when people tune in and watch, hopefully they'll see the relationship between me and Chris, and I think that's very different to what's commonly seen. Just taking the mickey out of each other and things like that. It was really really good.
Yeah, and that comes across. I mean, it's great, and it's so hard. I just want to talk about it, but I don't want to spoil it. But it was so great, and like you say, what I really loved about it is the fact that anyone looking at a blind person thinking, oh, kind of poor them, bits, they will see something like that and be like, actually, wow, this is interesting. That this guy can do a lot, and that really came across. And with me having a triathlon guide, and he's amazing. And I think actually having cameras on, watching and seeing the relationship and the pressure and the stress and how he coped with it, it was amazing, mate. Honestly, it was so good to watch.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, it was good. It was a great experience. And like I say, I always give a shout out to Chris because people focus on me because I'm the first visually impaired guy, and I feel bad a little bit because it wasn't just me. Chris was working, very hard to guide me and keep me safe. So, big shout out to him. And like I say, we've climbed down lagoons in jungles in Thailand. We once did a Norway expedition where they wouldn't let disabled people do it. So I lied and said I was fully sighted, and Chris covertly guided me on an expedition for a week where we were wild camping, and all we had was two paddle boards and a tiny little dry sack with some rations and your camping supplies. But as you can imagine, you can't get much kit on a paddle board, and that was our 1 week accommodation was that paddleboard and tent. And for him to be able to guide me and be out in the wilderness with no toilet facilities, no proper cooking facilities, and to keep it a secret that we're guiding and try and look fully sighted, I do feel, put quite a lot of pressure on these guides. I definitely sweat my guides a hell of a lot. I put my guides through absolute murder, and I'm so appreciative of it and you'll understand because you've been guided on triathlons and stuff. You get all the credit half the time, but it's like, you feel like you're giving me all the credit, but without my guide, I wouldn't be able to run this marathon. I wouldn't be able to climb that lagoon. I wouldn't be able to run away from MI5 through London.
And you're absolutely right. And this is something that I'm really working hard with Ant to get out there, is that actually without people helping us, we can't do the stuff that we can do. Or we can do amazing things, but we just need help to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's honestly, you and Chris, the relationship is just, it was great to watch. As a severely sight impaired person, watching you guys go through that, it was amazing.
Oh, thanks. I think we surprised, especially the control room people, because we've since spoke to a lot of these people, and you know, some of them will be friends for life now. Some of them were, especially the ex-special forces guys. They're saying to me, "Oh, wow, you're amazing doing this," and I'm like, "Me, I'm just visually impaired. You're ex-special forces. There's nothing amazing about me." But it was just such a great relationship and such a great group of people to be around and to experience it and to yeah, just to showcase some of that on TV. It was like I say, I can't be thankful enough. It was an absolutely amazing experience.
Well, I will hunt down the link and put it in the description. Had to squeeze that in. That's all good. So, see, as well as being a TV personality, you've been a busy, busy boy, and you've set up your own app.
Yes.
Now we know it's a new thing. It's very exciting. So, talk me through it.
Well, by day, I work in technology. I lead a team. I lead three teams actually. I've got a training team that design training courses for our internal employees. I've got a team of project managers that land and roll out technology projects, and I've got a team of analysts that do technical requirements and stuff like that. Um, and I am a geek, I'm afraid to say. I am an actual geek. So I was very interested in AI and technology and all that sort of stuff. And then a bit like you, Rob, I do a lot of outdoorsy type stuff, predominantly kayaking, paddleboarding, skiing, anything I can, camping, going stuff like you see me doing with Chris on Hunted. And one of the things, despite me being severely sight impaired, I do like to post on social media. I like to take selfies and photos. And I've tried all kinds of things, but these have never quite been right for me personally. And then I decided there's a little pet project in the background to try and use all possible accessibility tools, AI tools, and just see if it'd be possible for me to create myself a camera app, which I managed to do quite easily. And I had it running on my phone for ages, and playing with it and testing it. And then I thought to myself, this is actually really, really useful and really cool. I should actually try and publish this and get it launched on the, official app store. Um, and that's what I did. And it was a very, 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 very frustrating, painstaking process. As you can probably imagine, doing stuff with voiceover, although it's pretty good nowadays, it's still quite slow and frustrating. Um, but I managed to get it done, and it's literally a week ago been certified by Apple and is now available on the App Store. And from what I've researched, it usually takes about 3 attempts to pass the Apple review. It's quite a lengthy, tricky process, and I got through it first time. So I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely gobsmacked. And I guess we should talk about the app, tell you what it does, tell you what give you my sales spiel.
Do it. Give
Um,
it to me. Give it to me, Steve.
the thing I struggle with the most is I cannot see the screen, even with my good eye and my limited vision. If I'm out in the sunlight or any kind of daylight, to be honest, I really can't see the screen. And quite often, I'll take a lot of photos. And when I come home and I come indoors and I can actually zoom in and see a bit of the screen, I find out I wasn't taking a photo. I took a slow-mo of my forehead, not the picture of the dog that I thought I was taking. And you've been in this yourself. You're trying to click on, and I'm having to say to somebody, am I on video or am I on camera or am I on selfie or am I on the rear camera? And you're pressing the wrong buttons and it's a bit flaky with the voiceover. So what I did was I built a camera where there are no buttons on the screen. So if you want to take a photo, you just tap anywhere on that screen and it takes a photo. Um, and then to change from the front and rear camera, you just swipe up or down on anywhere on the screen to toggle between front and rear camera. And then I thought, since I can't see the screen, there's probably no point in having the screen burning the battery life and making the phone super hot. So why don't I make it where the screen's just off and black, since I can't see it anyway, and as well save the juice. Um, so the first version, I had it like that for a while, but then I realized I can't always tell if the camera's on or off because I've just got a completely black screen now. So then I added little bits like, voiceover just to periodically announce which camera is currently active. And then I added like a nice little bezel just around the screen just to give me a little bit of an indicator. And then I started building in face tracking and haptics. And I had the idea, I don't know if you ever played on a Nintendo Wii, but when you're feeling around with the remote control and you get the little haptic vibration when you hover over an actionable button, I kind of wanted that feeling so I could feel if my face was in shot. So I built in a bit of logic to say, if you can detect a face, tell me where it is. But given that I might be outside or in a noisy environment, actually, if my face hits a boundary of the frame, I want a slight vibration in my hand. And if the vibration gets more severe, I know that the face is going further and further out of shot. And all I've got to do is keep moving that phone until the vibration stops and I know my face is in the shot. And if I'm stood on a paddleboard or hanging off a cliff or wherever, I'll know if I'm in shot because I'll be able to physically feel it through the haptics. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's it. It's just amazing, you know. It is really cool. And we were talking, and you sent me over and you said, "Oh, try this out," and sadly I didn't get to try it, but I can't wait to get home and just give it a go. And
I'd love to hear your feedback. I'm already got loads of ideas for the second version, which I'm hoping to release in January. And I think this is version 85. Because I've deployed. 'Cause I don't know if you know anything about development and stuff, but you can put it in like a sandbox or test flight type area, and it's not in the App Store, but you can still get it yourself on your phone. So I've been able to use 85 previous iterations of this app. And like one of the things I did originally was I had oh sorry, I missed a big chunk of this. So the way the app works is you pull the phone out, you say, "Hey Siri, open black lens," and the camera loads up. Oops, actually doing it live on the
Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely. We get live work through.
So when the app boots up, it auto opens on the front facing camera and the face detection kicks in straight away. And what happens is the algorithm goes like this. If you can see a face and the face is in shot and the face doesn't move for maybe 1 second, then trigger auto capture and announce the auto capture. So it says 3, 2, 1, boom. It takes the picture. It then shows you a preview of the picture for 5 seconds and counts down that to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then it goes back. Then it just keeps doing that on repeat and taking selfies automatically. So you don't need to do anything. You could be wearing ski gloves. You could be out paddleboarding, whatever. You just pull it out, point it at your face. It takes the selfies automatically. And that was like the main big feature. But at first, I had the algorithm set to only trigger auto capture when my face is centered. And that was great because every picture was perfect because my face was always bang in the center. But then when I was out with the dog or out with, outside, I might want my face to be on the far left and you can see me in front of, I don't know, the Taj Mahal or whatever. So then I changed that to say, actually, trigger auto capture if my face is still and in frame rather than it having to be perfectly centered. And then just because I'm a geek, I did something really, really, really geeky. I was like, have the screen black. When you see a face, I want you to represent it as a bold, high contrast green circle. And I took inspiration from Top Gun, where the fighter jets are chasing and they go in for, like missile lock on the other plane. So I was like, make the circle a big, bold green circle, because I've got half a chance of seeing that. And when it's locked on and you're about to trigger auto capture, change that circle to red and then announce the countdown. So I stop moving and it takes the selfie. So I was playing around with that for a little while and I had to tweak some of the settings and relax some of it and build in a slightly longer delay for big groups because it takes big groups longer to get themselves in the frame. And the voiceover is a bit skitty when it's got like 6 people trying to tell you which person is not in the shot and stuff like that. So I messed around with it loads, but it's working brilliantly at the moment. I've just been away to Tenerife for the lads, taking loads of selfies out on speedboats and all kinds. And I've been able to take all them selfies without looking at the screen, using the rear camera or the front camera. Because again, it doesn't matter to me if I can see the screen or not. And yeah, I'm really, really chuffed with it. It's been brilliant. And I've got a few more ideas of what to do to it. So I'm currently working on them in the background before my next release.
Oh man, mate, it's the thing that I really, really love about this, right? Is I think the biggest gripe for, and you've already talked about it, and I can't remember if we talked about it when we're recording or before we're recording, but it's that whole issue of I'm a blind person, I've got a blind cane, and I've got a phone. And I make a real thing in my videos of I mean, I've just done a video about Uber and the app on my phone, and I'm walking people through it, and it's like, yeah, but you're telling your app that you're a blind person, yet you're on your phone, so how does that work? And it's like, apps like this just will make people like me, visual impairment, severely sight impaired, just be like, yeah, well, I've got tech on my phone that allows me to take selfies without even needing to look at the phone. So I think little by little it helps us to be like, yeah, we can use tech on our phones. That genuinely helps us, you know?
Yeah, I can't wait for you to use it and to see what you think. And it'll be funny when you are using it because I've made the display very, very impactful. So I was testing it. I went to a big fancy black tie event with a load of the Special Forces guys from Hunted. I don't know if you saw that on social media. It was like a charity
I thought,
event.
yeah, I'm
And I
not.
was
I am stalking you a little bit still. I've got.
so we're at this black tie event with these TV people, and I was taking selfies with the rear camera, which meant what was facing out to everybody else in the room was the display of the phone, which had all these big green targets on. And it would have been looking very strange to see me with my cane and then a phone and then this weird alien looking interface, which is in super, super mega high contrast targets on people's faces. But in a way, I was thinking, this is actually going to raise some really strange awareness in a funny kind of way when people are watching us do things like that. And then if I'm thinking to myself, wow, if 5,000 people get this app and are out and about with the cane and my app Black Lens, it's going to be like, wow, interesting.
Mate, it's a groundbreaking thing, you know. I'm itching to get off this video to go and try it myself, and I think actually I'm gonna do a video of me using it and have it filmed because
Brilliant.
mate, it's just, you know, it's groundbreaking, you know. It's so good. So obviously I'll put the link to go and get it so people can try this out for themselves because, you know, it's gonna be huge, man. And the thing I love about it,
when you do, just sorry, go on, carry on. Go on.
is that I've got you on here talking about it, and it's like, wow, he got this guy before he blew up and got even more famous, you know. It's gonna be good.
Well, the good thing is as well, because I don't have an app development team, I don't work for a company, anything to do, my day job is nothing to do with apps. So I'm in charge of this app. So if the blind community say to me, oh, that's great, but it doesn't do this, or this is broke, I will understand what they're saying. I will be able to comprehend why that's a problem, and then I'll be able to try and go away and spend time to fix that or add it in and things like that. Like I'm dead proud of the fact that because I'm a voiceover user on my iPhone, I find so many apps and things that don't work great with voiceover. And I know why, because I know how voiceover works. And when I'm dealing with people at work and accessibility, and I'm telling them to put alt text and stuff, and I check this stuff to make sure my teams are doing that sort of stuff correct, it annoys me like big apps like TikTok. TikTok need to sort their voiceover out. It's all over the place. Um, it misses landmarks, it misses labels, there's buttons that are not labeled correctly. So I spent ages trying to do that. And it's ironic that there's a guy with voiceover trying to write voiceover on an app to make it work, which was an absolute nightmare. But some of the things I did was I built a logic in. So out of the box, the phone has voiceover built in for everybody, sighted or not sighted, because everything is announced verbally. So you don't need to have voiceover switched on. But if you do have voiceover switched on, I had to tell the app if voiceover is switched on, then you can't use the gestures. So you'll need to create invisible landmark labels that the voiceover will see, and you need to label them. So when the visually impaired person is swiping through the voiceover prompts, you can tell via voiceover, and they'll know to double tap to activate that thing. But if they turn off voiceover, make them tap targets disappear because they're only there. I've only built them in for the sake of the voiceover mechanism, the way it works. So little things like that, which was a little bit of a pain. I was dead pleased that I managed to get it done. And it might not be perfect, and some people might give me feedback on it, but you know, I'll be happy with that, and I will get it pretty much perfect.
Man, it's so cool. I mean, I'm hanging on by a thread of understanding exactly what you're talking about, but I cannot wait to go and try this app out. You know, it's great, man. It's so good, and you're so passionate about helping, and that's such a great thing. Right, Steve, I don't know how you top 2025, but 2026 is upon us, and what are your plans? What are you getting up to next?
Well, I actually don't know if it's possible to top 2025. At the start of this year, I had no plans to launch an app and no plans to be on TV. So those two things have kind of happened by accident. Um, so I don't have any firm plans for 2026, but more of the same, definitely more of the app. Um, I'm interested to see what other problems I can solve now from an accessibility standpoint. And I've got a few issues with the Mac that I wouldn't mind trying to sort out. And I'm pretty much done with moaning about these things and trying to get other people to do it. And I've come to the conclusion that a lot of this stuff I'm gonna have to sort out for the visually impaired community because no one else seems to be able to be asked to do it. So I'm going to be on a bit of a mission next year, I think, solving problems for the low vision community rather than me getting, frustrated with these things. I'm just going to try and fix them myself.
Wait, it's that's so cool. You know, so good.
And there'll be more of me and Chris. So me and Chris will be doing some stuff, trying to ride on the coattails of Hunted. So watch this space for that. We're trying to do some other little bits like that. A few people have asked us to do a few little bits. So hopefully myself and Chris will find our way back onto a TV screen sometime soon.
I think anyone that watches you in action with Chris will agree you need to be on TV, you know. And the really interesting thing is that Traitors, there's an experience in London, and I wonder if Hunted could do like a day experience of like, right, here you go, off you go, try and avoid, you know. It's just fantastic, mate. Honestly, it's so good.
Yeah, well, hopefully me and Chris, because Hunted was good, but we didn't quite get as much airtime as we wanted. And because of the nature of the show, we didn't get to demonstrate any assistive tech like at all, because we had all our tech taken off us, our phones, our watches, our money, everything. And that was a real shame from an awareness perspective, because I would have liked to have showcased things like voiceover. I would have loved the audience to have seen me using my cane and an iPhone. I would love to have that debate, where it's the classic, isn't it? When I have people, if it happened to me yesterday, members of the public like to challenge me, especially on nights out and stuff. And I, as you can probably tell, I'm quite a passionate, strong-willed person. I am happy to debate with anybody why am I using a cane and a phone. And I'm pretty good at educating and explaining that and raising awareness, whether it be in a nightclub to a bouncer or, at a conference, whichever way is fine. So it would be good to do something more like that. I mean, myself and Chris have got some ideas around maybe stuff we could do on TV that would be raising awareness in a way that's not rammed down people's throats. It's just a bit more fun, a bit more fresh, and almost subtle awareness. But we'll see. I'll do my best.
Yeah, it's really funny, right? Because I was literally on a train to an RNIB event about promoting vision rehabilitation and talking to MPs about it. And I was on the train, and I'm sure you're the same, but when you know in advance you're going to be using certain apps, so I know I need to get my train ticket up, I know I need to have my rail card app there, I've kind of got them all set up and ready to roll, right? And I was sat at a table, and the conductor came up and said, "Oh, tickets please." So I know exactly, face swipe, I'll give my face to recognise it, I know where the app is, so ping it, it's already set up. And this guy sat across me on the train, and he literally said, "If you're blind, how come you can get your ticket faster than I could?" And I sort of sat back for a second and was like, I can't tell if he's trying to accuse me of not being blind or whether he's genuinely asking me that question. But I literally just said, well, I just organise everything and I know exactly where everything is. So it's how we have to plan in advance and do it. But it just shows there's like a real need for education around this whole idea. And there's so much accessibility that we need on the phones, which, we can't access if we're scared of people. There's so many videos on social media of, you know, people shouting abusive stuff at blind people looking at their phones or trying to use their phones, and people are scared, you know. There's a real big issue about denial of a disability and not using a white cane because you're scared you can't use your phone. And it's like, we just need help getting past that, you know.
Yeah, 100%. You're speaking my language, mate. And you know, you've probably seen me on social media. I'm always going on about cane shame. I'm always going on trying to, but predominantly trying to get men to go and do the cane training because I do know a lot of men that have just bought a cane off Amazon, not done the cane training, and won't do the cane training because they're just a bit hung up on it. And that, that just, I understand it. I didn't want to use my cane and I put off using my cane and struggled and had bumps and accidents for, a variety of reasons. So I understand it, but I'm trying to stop young men going through the pain and suffering that I went through because I should have just used my cane, but, probably 5 years sooner than what I actually did, if I'm honest with myself. And when I did start using it full time, I was like, wow, it's like having my sight back. I should have done this ages ago.
Yeah.
This is well easier.
100%.
Yeah, it's the really strange thing for me is that I'm super confident, but when my trainer came around to my house and said, we're gonna take you outside and use we're gonna walk around the block, I was like, inside I was like, yeah, but my neighbours are gonna like that. What? Like, because I have like a really great barber. And he's immense. This is how I look so sharp, right? I don't do it myself. I have a barber. But he lives just around the corner from me. And because I've lived in my house for 6 years, I know how I get there. And yeah, I walk in the road and, because it's easier than being on the path. But I don't walk to the barber with my white cane. I like to just test myself and know that I'm still there. But I've still got this hang up of like, yeah, but my neighbours are going to see me walking with the white cane, and then they're going to see me the next day without it and looking at my phone and think, what on earth, like, what is going on? And there is so much shame. And it's like, I'm 44. If someone like me had told me when I was in my 20s, mate, get the cane out, start using it now, and do not care what people think about you.
Yes.
It's such an important message. And if people watching this take one thing away from it, apart from Hunted, apart from your rap, it's that, man, isn't it? It's don't be afraid. We've got to stop being afraid.
I think my message is situational cane use is fine. And Steve said so. I said so. I authorize you all to have a situational cane. That is absolutely fine. And don't worry about using your cane at night, but not in the day, or using it on a Friday, but not on a Saturday. Because I think people think once they pick up that cane, that's it. They've got to use it all of the time because of the questions, because of like exactly what you've just articulated. And when this happened to me, I was working at Vodafone in a huge contact center with around about 1,000 employees, and I was at the brink where I knew I was going to have to start using my cane because it was just so hard walking around without it, looking at the floor, trying not to trip over things. And I had an incident on holiday in New York where I bumped into a lady and spilt hot coffee all over her. And I was like, right, that was my fault because I wasn't using the cane. Had I had my cane, that woman now would not have coffee all over her. And I've just got to get over myself, stop being a mad ass and panicking about what people are going to think of me. That attitude has just caused that woman pain and suffering because of my own stupid ego and weakness to just go and use my cane. So from that day forth, I literally came home. I walked into Vodafone and I said to my boss, and I was worried about telling my boss because I'm working there as a manager, leading a team. They don't know I've got a disability. They don't know that I'm going blind. And now I'm going to hit them with this thing, about my blindness. And I just went in and said, look, I'm going to start using a cane. I don't really know how to phase this in. Bit of advice, like how do I finish on Friday night, go home, and then come back in Monday as a blind man with a cane? I can't just like phase it in for an hour in the morning, once a week. It's going to be a bit strange. And they were great, and they sent an email, all around and told everybody. And I did go through, right, I've just got to use my cane now every day. And then it took me a while to then start thinking, actually, no, I can walk from my desk to the canteen without my cane because I kind of know where I'm going. And if I'm just nipping to the toilet, I won't. But then if I'm going to another floor or a particularly crowded area, I will take my cane. And it took me a while to be able to shirk that I must use it all the time now because I've used it once, and to feel comfortable doing situational cane use. So it's that's one of the toughest things to get over. So I hope anyone listening to this just feels like, yeah, maybe I'll use my cane at night when it's pitch black because I'm more vulnerable and I can't see as well. Or maybe I'll use my cane in crowded areas when there's a lot of obstacles, but maybe not when I'm just walking around my local park and I know the route or I know the paths. So yeah, that's a great message for people to hear.